Thank you for coming, everybody, this morning. My name is Mr. Johnson. I'm going to be facilitating this meeting. Before we start, I'd like to introduce everybody. On my right, I've got Mr. Byers, Stephen's father, and then we've got Stephen, and then we've got Miss Taylor from the Year 10 department, and then we've got Mrs. York, and then we have Misha, her daughter. The purpose of this meeting this morning is to explore what happened between Stephen and Misha the other day in class, and to allow people to talk about how it's affected them and what harm has been caused. As the facilitator, I'm going to allow those conversations to happen. I would request that you all listen to each other and be respectful. I'm going to ensure that everybody has a chance to say what they need to say. Before we start, I would just like to say that this meeting will be a confidential one. It will remain in this room. Anything that you say will stay within these walls. Okay, what I'd like to do first is to come to you, Stephen, and ask you to help us understand the harm that's been caused. Talk a little bit about what happened.
Well, she was kind of cold. My mom.
Okay. All right, thank you for that, Stephen. I'd like to come to you now, Misha, and ask you to talk about what happened from your point of view.
Well, basically what happened a couple of weeks ago, he asked me for a pen, to use a pen, and I gave.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Misha, thank you for that. If I could come to you, Mr. Byers, now, and ask you to talk about how you came to find out about this incident with Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, Miss phoned me up from school to tell me that Stephen had been involved in an incident, which obviously, I was surprised about, just to get that phone call.
If I could come to you now, Mrs. York, could you describe how you came to find out about this?
Well, a similar way to Mr. Byers, got a phone call from the school to say that Misha had been involved in an incident. I was at work, and I must say that I don't think it was you who phoned, I think it was somebody else who phoned me. So it's had a huge impact on us, a huge impact.
Okay, thank you for divulging that. It's a difficult thing to talk about.
It is very difficult.
If I could come to you now, Ms. Taylor, as the leader of the year group and somebody who supports both of these young people and also lives with the parents, could you talk about how you came to find out about this incident?
Well, yeah, I was radio for on my school radio, and they was asked saying there'd been an incident and could I go to the geography room. On arrival, it was absolutely chaos in there. People rushing around, people crying.
Stephen, if I could come back to you now, we've all heard everybody talk about what's happened and their points of view and the effect that your behaviour has caused. What do you think now about what happened, Stephen?
I didn't know that happened with your family and you lost the.
Okay, thank you for that, Stephen. Misha, if I could come to you now, similarly, you've heard everybody talk about what happened and the effect that it's had on them and maybe other people. What do you think now about what's happened?
I think I'm sorry that I cost your mum. I didn't know that your mum wasn't around or anything.
If I could come to you now, Mrs. York, again, you've heard from everybody, we've heard from everybody. What do you feel now?
I suppose I'm just thinking it could have all been so easily avoided if these two thought you didn't think.
Thank you, Mrs. York. Could I come to you now, Mr. Byers, and ask you, similarly, you've heard everybody talk about the incident and how it's affected people. What do you think now about what's happened?
Well, I mean, I didn't know anything about house fire and your relatives, and I'm really sorry that happened. That
Thank you.
must be terrible. And for them, for them, what you've
If I could come to you, Ms Taylor, again, as the leader of learning for the year group. Again, you've heard everybody talk about the effect that there's been on the back of this incident. What do you feel now about what's happened?
Well, I certainly hope that after today, Stephen really has taken on how dangerous his actions are. And I also think that he needs to appreciate just how lucky he is that the family.
So, we've all had our chance to speak this morning about the incident, and we've explored the harm and the effect of the harm. What I would like to do now, what I'd like everybody to do now, is to see how we can move things forward, because that's one of the purposes of this meeting, is to try and repair the harm that's been caused. What I'd like to do is to come to you, Misha, first, and ask you what you need for things to be okay. You could talk about that.
Just to know that I'll be safe in school now. I won't be.
So, Stephen, what is it that you need for things to be okay for you?
Well, really for everyone to understand that I'm not that kind of person who would go around doing aggressive things.
Okay, thank you for that, Stephen. If I could come to you now, Mel, and ask you what you need for things to be okay.
I just need to know that she's safe in school and that this is never going to happen again. I know you know.
Okay. If I could come to you now, Mr. Byers, could you talk about what you need for things to be okay?
Well, I need to know that both Stephen and Misha are going to be in school and are going to be.
So if I could come back to you, Ms Taylor, as the leader of your year group, what is it that you need for things to be okay?
I think, well, definite reassurances. Reassurances that nothing like this would ever happen again. And certainly.
Thank you for that, Ms Taylor. So everybody has talked about what they need for things to move forward and the assurances that they need. I'd like you now, as a group, to talk about how those assurances are going to be met. If I can come to you, Steve, first, and ask you, what do you think?
Well, I won't really.
Okay, Misha, could I come to you and ask you, how might...
I think that we should just stay away from each other.
Okay, is that something that you could agree to, Stephen? Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, everybody. I think we've reached the conclusion to this morning's meeting. I'd like to thank all of you for participating in this, and it's important that you understand that all of your contributions have helped make this a successful meeting. I certainly, as a facilitator, get a sense that you are all happy, and this is very much the beginning of things being sorted out.